And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Greece. Good evening, Europe. Good evening, world. This is another episode of DiEM25 Beyond the Balconies, Organizing for European Solidarity. And today we have a special episode for all of you. We will be speaking to our comrades in Greece. But this time, it won't only be the electoral wing and the national collective of the country after a request by the NC and EW of Greece. We have invited, and you will see we are joined here today, by many of our grassroots members, organizers, but also members of both the movement and our electoral wing across the country, to join us and join their voice in our political analysis, discussion about where Greece is today, where it is financially, where it is politically, where it is socially after 10 years of inhumane austerity, and on the brink of another major crisis that is facing all us Europeans. So, without further ado, I will give the floor to Yanis Varoufakis, the head of Mera25, our electoral wing, and co-founder of DiEM25, to give us a brief introduction about our country and where it fits into the bigger picture vis-a-vis Europe, the European Union, and where we find ourselves right now. Yanis, over to you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thanks to all those watching on YouTube. DiEM25 is making transparency a central pillar from day one. We've been campaigning for transparency across Europe, in the Eurogroup, in the European Union Council, everywhere. And we're practicing it because anyone can watch us now, friend and foe. Anyone can see what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. We are not afraid of transparency. We believe in transparency. Without transparency, there is not even a chance of democracy. Today's meeting is important for two reasons. The most important of the two important reasons is that Europe is burning. It's crashing. It is decomposing. For reasons that our manifesto, the DiEM25 manifesto, articulated magnificently and unfortunately accurately. Remember what we said? We said Europe will democratize, will be democratized, or it will disintegrate. Well, it failed to democratize itself, to be democratized, so it is disintegrating, because democracy is not just a luxury for advanced countries. It is an essential mechanism for economic policies that during the slump, during a crisis, prevent the disintegration. Cartels do really very well on an upswing during the good times, but they're terrible during a downswing, during the decline. Look at OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. When the price of oil goes up, everything is fine. When the price of oil goes down, they hate each other and they kill each other. And unfortunately, the European Union was never created as a democracy, it was created as a cartel. So this is what's happened to the cartel called the European Union. It is disintegrating on the way down. And it has been going down, deeper and down, as Status Quo, that awful rock band, their song from the 70s says. Since the Euro crisis, 2010, the post-2008 disaster, the Athens Spring, the Greek Spring in 2015 was a magnificent opportunity for Europe to pull itself together and to start working on behalf of its people, not just the Greek people, but its people. They snuffed out that rebellion, that revolt, and the result is stagnation. And then on top of the stagnation, we had a virus, which now is exposing all the fragilities of the European Union. So that is one reason why this is important to discuss from the perspective of Greece, of DiEM25 Greece, because for some reasons, which I think I'm not even going to begin to imagine now, this is the task of historians and not today's historians, the future historians. Two major catastrophes in Europe began in Greece. One was the Cold War, because let me remind you, the Cold War did not begin in the streets of Berlin, it began in the streets of Athens in December 1944. And the second one was the Euro crisis. So for some reason, this country is the beginning of terrible things that are happening in Europe not even since, even before the Second World War ended in December of 1944. So one reason is this, looking at Europe from Greece's perspective. In previous meetings, we did it from Italy's perspective, from France's perspective, from Britain's perspective, and so on and so forth. Spain. This is the beauty of DiEM25. We're all together in one unitary movement that has electoral wings, but we are in it not as Greeks or as Germans or as Italians, we are in it as progressives. The second issue that we should be looking at concerns our own internal organization. We started as a movement that did not have immediate plans for competing in elections back in February 2016. Our initial hope is that we wouldn't have to. Our initial hope was that by bringing together Europeans and coming up with one solid unitary manifesto for the whole of Europe of what needs to be done regarding labor markets, regarding social cohesion, regarding green investment, the green transition, regarding debt, public debt, private debt, and all that. We did that. We worked for a year and a half to come up with a Green New Deal for Europe. We did it. And we involved many parties in this. Die Linke, Podemos, various political parties, and the Greens from various countries, parts of the Labour Party. We hoped that this common agenda would be enough. We hoped, we were not sure. We were not confident. That was a hope that we had. That would be enough for different political parties to coalesce around this manifesto and provide the coherence which is necessary to make unity possible and useful. Because without coherence, unity is bunk. There's no point for it. But of course, it didn't happen because even though people from Podemos came with us and worked on the Green New Deal for Europe, people from Die Linke, and so on and so forth, when elections started appearing on the horizon, especially the European Parliament ones, suddenly everybody went their own way because they are bureaucratic machines and the only thing they care about is the reproduction of the bureaucratic machine. Ideas, manifesta, policy agendas, they really don't give a damn about. And at that point, sometime, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, towards the end of 2017, after a lot of soul searching, we decided that DiEM remains as a movement, as a grassroots movement, pan-European, but it creates its own electoral wings. And that's why we call them electoral wings, because we're not going, the title, if you remember, of our document was not another political party. We're not just creating another political party. We have a movement which is unitary, pan-European, and that movement creates instruments, electoral wings. So we created Democratia in Europa in Germany, MERA in Greece, and so on. And in some countries, our electoral wing was an existing party that joined our campaign, adopted a manifesto, for instance, the Alternativet in Denmark or Livre in Portugal. We were not keen to create our own political parties if one or more were prepared to join us and become our electoral wing, having shared our manifesto, our Green New Deal agenda with us. The reason why Greece is important is because it is the opposite of other countries, like, for instance, Italy. Because in Italy, we have quite a large movement, DiEM25, but we don't have electoral wing. Or we did create an electoral wing, but it's very weak because of the electoral law, because of various circumstances on the ground in Italy. That electoral wing never even acquired a name and never competed in any elections. Whereas in Greece, it's exactly the opposite. In Greece, our electoral wing took root and eventually even entered parliament. And the problem here in Greece, from a DiEM perspective, is that the electoral wing, MERA 25 in Greece, has become far more powerful than DiEM in Greece, in the sense that we had the sheer effort to gain seats in parliament, to act as a, as a political party in Greece, which is worthy of people's support, meant that DiEM25 as a movement went into a phase of atrophy. And you can see this even in our organization. So the National Collective has sort of faded out of existence, and the Electoral Wing Board, which is the political secretariat of MERA25, is working 24 hours a day. Because this is what you do when you're a political party, right? You're facing challenges every day. Today, you know, since 7 in the morning, I've been, not just me, our comrades in MERA25 have been killing ourselves, trying to organize a campaign against the 5th MOU, which is coming next year as a result of the European Union's rejection of Eurobonds, something that our comrades in Italy should be doing, our comrades in Spain should be doing, everywhere across Europe. So the question is, you know, how do we find a balance between the movement and the party? How not to allow the party in Greece to spin off, to become yet another political party that is removed from DiEM25? How to retain MERA25 as the electoral wing of DiEM25? There is no doubt there are tensions here, and they're natural. So, for instance, people who joined MERA25 without knowing anything about DiEM25, they joined because they've had enough of austerity, they've had enough of this constant, consistent, perpetual, reproducible humiliation inflicted upon the people of Greece by the Troika, of the interior primarily, not only of the exterior. You know, they joined MERA25 seeking liberation from the MOU, from the Troika. And they say, okay, now why do the Spaniards, who are members of DiEM25, have to vote for our policies regarding taxation or, you know, non-performing loans of the banking sector in Greece? So we have to educate them, we have to explain to them, listen, MERA25 doesn't exist as a separate party. It is hanging under the umbrella of DiEM25. It is the electoral, it is the instrument of DiEM25. It's a member, once you enter MERA25, you enter a unitary pan-European movement, a family of European progressives, where there is no difference between the Greek, the German, the Italian, and so on. So in the same way that we decide all our policies regarding Palermo at the pan-European level, we will have to decide the policies of MERA25, what MERA25 does in Parliament, our electoral program at the pan-European level. So these are the two issues. I'll shut up now because it's far more interesting to hear you than to hear me, myself speak. One is, this is a crucial moment because DiEM's agenda, manifesto, analysis has been completely and utterly vindicated across Europe by the events of the last weeks, while at the same time we have not gained the kind of power in parliaments, European Parliament, national parliaments and so on, that we should, given the vindication of our analysis and agenda. We need to strengthen the movement. The movement has to become far more effective at conveying our agenda, which I still think it is the only agenda that makes sense across Europe from a progressive perspective. The fascists make sense from a fascist perspective. We make sense from a progressive perspective. So we need to build up the movement a lot better than we have. We need to become more radical, as we said in Prague last November, with post-capitalism being a central plank of our future manifesto. At the same time, we need to find some kind of balance between the movement and the electoral wings. And I think the case study of Greece is a wonderful opportunity to think laterally about this and to move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Yanis. And I was thinking it probably is one of the more hopeful messages to hear that we haven't figured it out in Greece either, because I know that this is a topic, this relationship between the movement and our party and so on, that's a discussion among DiEMers everywhere. And it's normal there's a discussion everywhere because we're doing something that hasn't been done before. So of course, the only way to get anywhere is to try again and fail better. You know, it's trial and error. So it's good to hear that, and it'd be very interesting, I think, for today's discussion to hear directly from some of our members exactly what that dynamic is, what has worked, what hasn't worked, where those tensions still are, and what we could be doing to resolve them. It'll be interesting for everybody. It's not just a Greek phenomenon; it's a DiEM phenomenon. So what I'll be doing from now on, we'll take the discussion to the rest of the participants, and we will try to the best of our ability to switch between a woman speaker and a man speaker. So if you don't get the floor, even though you were first, it probably has to do with this duality. So having said that, we go to Ketty. Ketty, the floor is yours. Unmute
Okay,
yourself.
good evening to everybody. As I asked at the beginning, Eric, which was, sorry, my English are not very good, okay? I asked what was the topic of the meeting, and I thought that Eric said to talk about the whole situation that has become now during the coronavirus, and especially maybe generally in Europe, and especially in Greece, because Greece is now for 10 years in the momentum, something like this. And but now, as I heard from Yanis Varoufakis, the topic is how can be DiEM25 stronger in Greece, I think. I understood something like this. And I want to say that here in Greece, in my opinion, of course, the movements generally, like DiEM25, is very difficult to be strong, and that happens because everybody here has the opinion that if you want to be in a way in politics, you must be in a party. Party is Mera 25, but if we were, I personally, I accept the idea of movement, but to be strong, I think that we have to go from Mera to DiEM, not from DiEM to Mera, let's say. What I mean, that I mean that the people who were in DiEM at the first days, and now they go to Mera 25, cannot follow the two of them. You cannot compel, let's say, for the Mera and for the DiEM, and that means that the party which is strong enough in nowadays in Greece have to help DiEM to become as it was, for instance, in the beginning, because I had seen some people who were in DiEM at first, and they didn't go to Mera in the second time, and I think that the party needs to help DiEM to be to rebuild it. Let's say that's it. Thank you very much. Maybe later I will leave the meeting, but since for the time will be here, I will hear you. Bye.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ketty. And we're very glad that you're here and you're raising these points. It really shouldn't be a question of having to choose between one or the other. All Mera 25 should ever be is a tool for the movement to achieve its goals politically. Just another tool, another way of achieving political goals, in this case in Greece, right, through gathering electoral political power to our agenda. And the movement should be doing literally everything else, everything that isn't electoral politics. And the two should be working together. Having said that, that's beautiful theory, but how that actually functions in practice, That's the whole game. That's the whole DiEM experiment. So I don't think there shouldn't be a contradiction between the two, and there shouldn't be a contradiction between us discussing what the political situation is in Greece and what the DiEM25 situation is in Greece, because answering both those questions are the point of this call. So thank you very much for that. I think it helps us also frame the discussion well, taking notes, and we'll come back to some of this. I believe the floor now needs to go to Mikhail. Mikhail, you're up.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everybody. Hello, comrades. Yanis. I will try to express my point of view for the last 10 years, okay? Now, let's face it. I think it is common knowledge that Europe, after 10 years struggling with austerity and authoritarianism, is facing its destruction, may I say. Also, we should point out that the European Union has enormous power. Now, for example, if the European Central Bank governs the euro and the European Council regulates the European policies. On the other hand, the Eurocrats decide what products can be made under what conditions, and European judges claim that they have the authority to override national laws. Now, I think that the European Parliament, for example, has greater powers now than what it did in the 1990s. Even so, it is hard to sustain the fiction that ordinary people and citizens like us have a meaningful say over what happens in Brussels. Like in the constitutional monarchies back in the 18th and the 19th centuries, the mechanism for translating the views of the people into public policy remains, for me, extremely indirect. But the extent of power that is now delegated to the European Union also means that it makes a huge difference who is actually sitting around the table in Brussels. And also because of the rapid rise of authoritarianism and populism across Europe, for example, German or Italian or Greek citizens, they don't just share the sovereignty with the free citizens of the democratic countries, but they also share it with the aspiring dictators around those countries. I think I have to mention that after the Second World War, Europe's founders succeeded in bringing peace and friendship to a continent long defined by warfare. All of us Europeans, I think we should feel an obligation to defend this achievement. But to do that, we first have to acknowledge and then to remedy the serious shortcomings now threatening the European Union. For me, if you ask me, the solution is that we should mobilize all the citizens in our neighborhoods and spread the word in unity, that we need to stick together and that we need to make the right decisions in the ballots from now on. I don't think that we can count on the media to do that because they are paid not to do that. And I think that should be our promise, not just for the future generations, but for our free-thinking people now. And we also have the party Mera25 in Greece. We also have DiEM25, and we also have something that the rest of the world don't think that we have. We have unity and we have our voice, and we can use it to change what we need to call the European Union. Thanks.
Thank you, Mikhail, and very important point also specifically on media. This is something that we are looking into integrating into our concept of post-capitalism. This is something that hasn't been discussed enough in terms of capitalism specifically, and media driven by profit, and what that does to the sharing of information in the public domain. So we are also trying to integrate that into our sort of post-capitalist discussion, post-capitalist vision, a media not driven by profit. So thank you for bringing that into the discussion. I think now we will go to Depi, and then we have Jochen. So Depi, the floor is yours. You will need to unmute yourself before speaking.
Yanis' words, but I believe that now it's a really chance for what we're doing so many years now with DiEM, and for good luck, Mera is in the Greek parliament. So I believe that it's the first time that Europe faces a common, let's say, enemy, this pandemic, the COVID-19. So maybe it's now the chance that we face the same problem to demand something as a European, all the Democrats of the European Union. So now maybe we should claim for this public health system. We should demand about let's say, this European constitution that we have discussed in the past as well. So, and of course, like Michael said, I believe that this could start only with the activist party. We should go all around in the streets and demonstrate and bring all the problems of all the countries, of all the Democrats in Europe, and face these problems that I think now that the European Union should be together. Otherwise, as DiEM says, European Union will be destroyed. I don't know how we could make this happen. As I said, only with an activist common voice. And we should talk maybe more between the countries of that they belong to DiEM25. Thank you very much. I don't have to say anything more for the time.
Thank you, Debbie. The floor now goes to Jochen. Jochen, if you unmute yourself.
Hello, everybody. Dear comrades and friends, I welcome you all very warmly and would like to thank the organizers very much for making this meeting possible, and you all for being here with us today. I think this is a great initiative and shows that we have once again managed to make a virtue out of necessity. DiEM25 started in 2016, and we have come so far on this path that today we are implementing the process that an all-member vote has charged us with, to create electoral wings so that our voice is heard in parliament of all European states. And here in Greece, we have managed to enter parliament with 9 members in the last elections, and since then we have been heard, and the establishment is visibly disturbed, as we mentioned before, with the media and their disposal. They attack us wherever and however they can. This shows us that we are on the right track, I would say. Well, our coordination of actions in the various countries and communication must be intensified. And that's I think one of the topics we should also talk about today, that and that we should know that there are in many countries all over Europe, they are trying to found electoral wing like Mera in Greece, and we are in the process of intensifying the communication and the coordination between the electoral wings and DiEM. And to come back to what Katie said before, and I agree with Eric on this, we don't have to separate this. This is, if you want, the electoral wings are a movement within the movement, and every electoral wing operates within the frame of DiEM25, which means we make sure we follow the same path and we go into the same direction as we decided when we entered DiEM25 and became a member. Well, and I've been a part of the founding of Mera25 in Greece, and I know about many problems we had. And again, I agree with Katie that it wasn't easy to convince the people to join a party because many people just wanted to, yes, be part of a DiEM25 movement, but not doing any policy. And we have similar problems all over Europe now. And we are so far doing very, very well. I am taking part in the in the founding of the German party at the moment. We are in contact with the French electoral wing and the Italian electoral wing, and we are doing very, very well. So I would just call upon everybody to follow us in any way, either on all these nice videos we have, and the DiEM25, which is great and has so many interesting guests, and follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and wherever you can, and give us your likes and become a member. Take part in this fight for a democratic Europe, because it's worth it. Thank you.
This message was brought to you by our sponsor, DiEM25. Thank you, Jochen, very much for those words. And for those of you that feel that you might have dropped down the deep end of the rabbit hole, electoral wings are essentially national subgroups of the political movement that is DiEM, so attempting to democratize Europe everywhere. And they focus, as the name suggests, on elections, hence electoral wings. So they focus on the electoral work that we need to do in different countries in Europe. That is what we've been referring to here today. Also, in terms of explaining the context a bit to people, please, all of you, when you take the floor, introduce yourselves, your name, how long you've been in DiEM, and where in Greece, if you are in Greece, you are based. And having said that, I give the floor now to somebody that perhaps doesn't need much of an introduction to many of us, but it'd be good if you did it anyway, my dear Fotini.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everybody. I'm Fotini. I'm an elected member of MERA25. I'm also a member of the CC. I've been on DiEM since 2016, even before we launched it in Berlin. It's true, we have come a long way. It wasn't easy. I mean, earlier today we discussed with Eric that the last year we were in Alexandroupoli for an event before the EU elections. But we made it, we succeeded. MERA25 is in Parliament right now, and I think it is a unique opportunity for us to bring DiEM's voice in the Parliament. It is a unique opportunity to engage more people. I completely agree with Katie. The parties will always be connected. It will always be DiEM25's electoral wing in Greece, but now, because it has more power, it's more, how do we say, sorry, it has more exposure. It's time for the party to bring them forward. That being said, we should always keep in mind that MERA's program is DiEM's program, and we are the only ones that competed the elections with a joint pan-European program. Also, we really need to work on educating our members, especially the newer ones that have only joined MERA25, on what DiEM is, on the aspect that MERA25 can never be another political party, because it will always be the electoral wing of DiEM25 in Greece. A possible idea that we could discuss, and I would like your views on that. Perhaps we could organize, when the pandemic allows us, some joint events like we used to have, DiEM Greece, DiEM and MERA25 events, engaging also our MPs, so that we enrich and we make the connection between the two even stronger. That's all for now, and I may come back later. Thank you.
I very much hope that you do. Thank you, Fotini. And it's very important, this point. It's people don't join a movement to join a political party. people very often, especially in the last few years, join movements because they are sick and tired of politics as usual. They join movements as an alternative way of expressing themselves politically and engaging with politics in a way that doesn't feel crusty and old and conceited and corrupt. And it's very important, and that's why the foundational document of when we decided to create our parties, let's call them, our electoral wings, that foundational document was called Not Just Another Political Party. And it's important that we follow through with that. We remain true to creating bodies and creating political structures that are not just copies of what everybody else is doing. Otherwise, we might as well stop and go home and let the others do what they've been doing all along. It's important to maintain that authenticity and innovation that's been so typical of DiEM from the beginning. And it'd be nice to hear a bit from Mera about what it is that makes Mera a different political party to all the other ones. So those of you who are from the party, it'd be nice to hear a bit on that. Having said that, the floor now goes to Gerasimos. Gerasime, floor is yours.
Hello to everybody. I agree with all previous that have spoken, and I have to add that I dream, and I not dream. I think that this is will be realistic. All parties of DiEM25 in all countries to add to their program a sustainable program for free energy. I would like this thesis will be more easily to have the lower cost to all families. This matter will give the more freedom to economics to all families, to all persons that will be in Europe. And secondly, I would like to do a question to Yanis or which knows, which is the highest and safest interest rate to investigate the European people in which bank to have more interest rate at safest and highest, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerasime. Nice to see you again. Now, floor goes to Sisi. Sisi, floor is yours.
Hello from me. My name is Sisi Belisario, and I'm a member of the Sisi. And I won't cover the specificity of DiEM as a unique kind of phenomenon in Europe, in the world. This has been something that Fotini has already mentioned. What I would like to say, however, is that in my opinion, a basic way for organizing ourselves, both as electoral wings across Europe and as DiEM, is by shifting the focus on post-capitalism. This is the most important thing, and I'm not saying this in theory. I'm saying this specifically because of the epidemic that has put capitalism into a pause. I think Yanis mentioned restart or something like that. I'm not very good at this technological language. This is the historical moment we are going through, and this is what we have to face. This post-capitalism pillar should be our great priority, and along with that, the restoration of the basic needs and demands like public and free health, public and free education, the restoration of labor relationships to what they used to be before neoliberalism ravaged Europe, that is the middle of the 80s. This kind of thing, in my opinion, does great service to a sort of common program that could sort of, at the same time, organize any activity that DiEM might take to a certain extent or to a great extent. For example, I find Yanis' proposal about an international day, on which all Europeans should abstain from buying anything from Amazon, a kind of international activity that materializes what I'm saying, the post-capitalism society to which all of us have to aspire. And something else. I joined MERA having being a member of Syriza for something like 20 years, Συνασπισμός and Syriza. So I'm new to DiEM, and I simply want to show by speaking about myself for a minute why I joined MERA. There is no recipe about electoral wings. What MERA and Yanis in particular managed to do last year was to express the need of the Greeks for resistance to the memoranda, to austerity, and to the destruction of my country and our country, that it was the only kind of political organization that managed to do so. So to our comrades of the other parties, of the other DiEMs, national committees and electoral wings, I should say, and I'm closing with this, that there is no recipe. The only recipe is organized resistance around the program and an honest fighting voice. I can't find anything else. There are no recipes, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Cici. Thank you very much. I've made a note of the only recipe is organized resistance. I like that. It's the sort of thing you put on a t-shirt, you know? So thank you for that, Cici. We go on to Marios, and then we have Ariana. Maria.
Good evening, everybody. I come from the DiEM family. I've joined DiEM in 2017. This is my second period in the validating committee of DiEM25. I'm a bit of result-oriented, thus I will try to approach this whole conversation on a different level. Being a member of the DiEM25 for me means that I'm part of a movement that needs to know things in order to be better informed and better activistic in ways of social expression. Thus, I will try to use some examples to translate what I believe that may work for all of us and not separating DiEM from the electoral wings or something like that. Just to give you an example, Yanis discussed and everybody referred to the COVID-19 situation. So for me, as a member of the movement, I have been publishing for what, 2 weeks now, documentaries and evidence that the WHO Gates Fauci trilogy starts to fall apart. And this is part of the capitalistic behavior that we have for the past 40 years around the medication and pharmaceutical industry. So I haven't heard anybody within DiEM or MERA25 address this issue in terms of, for example, bringing an expert and sitting down with him and try to evidence-based discuss this whole issue, because there are so many data out there and someone needs to collect them and put them into a range and translate them into a discussion that everybody can relate to. On the other hand, just to discuss the opposition of why electoral wings are necessary, just yesterday in Greece, we voted something that can only be named a killer legislation for the environment. Yet again, I haven't seen anybody being able to share this information with the DiEM movement up to 24 hours now, because I've been following up the information within the DiEM sites, which means that DiEM probably doesn't know what happened to Greece. So the movement lacks of information about what happened yesterday in the Greek parliament. So we need to establish this bridge of information exchange between the movement and the electoral wings on what's going on a topic level, in terms of for the movement to being able to relate. Exempli gratia, another issue that I would like to refer to is the fact that even in Greece, for the past 2 weeks, I've been revealing data that referred to scandals in terms of people in the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, suddenly being approved to offer to the Hellenic authorities instruments of fighting the COVID-19, like masks and stuff like that. Yet again, as it shows, so many scandals were announced if someone only took the time to visit the page of Diavgia, which is a page where all public, how can I say this, contracts are presented. Thus, only by spending like 8 hours, I found out that most of the deals made by the Hellenic government within the past 2 months were direct scandals, one way or another, either referring to the price or anything else. Or just to put it in another way, as part of the movement, I felt that it was my obligation to inform European friends that in Greece, the police still acts unviolent in terms of even members of the security agency of the head of the government pursuing and hitting a person to the ground just because the person decided to hang on a public servant's car, which means that there is a lack of translation on the issues that takes place within the Hellenic region and the European region. Yet again, these are common problems, and we need to discuss them and exchange information among us between the movement and the political wings. Just to give you a last point of view, because I know my 2 minutes are up almost, I need to say that we need to establish the movement as the heart of everything. So informing the movement and giving the movement voice, this means that the movement will be able to provide to political wings with concrete evidence and data that will allow the political parties to sustain their development and argue in a larger and louder voice, but based on evidence, based on common knowledge. And thank you for having me. It is an honor being here and meeting so many members of Mera25 that I haven't met before. And I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to be part also of what's going on in my country, rather than only be involved with the pan-European actions that we are taking upon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. We're not having you, we're all having each other. This is DiEM, you know, and it belongs to all of us equally. So thank you for being here with us and sharing those points. We have been trying to improve a bit. This flow of information is incredibly important. There is an improvement now at the European level, but we've been trying to build some teams that help also bring that information from country to country, because that's not something that can be done at the European level. You need people on the ground to share it, like you very correctly said. So if you're interested in helping with that, or you know people who are, and those of you watching us also on YouTube, if you do, please get in touch. We will hook you up, because we've been building these teams. We've started monthly at least exchanges, and as these teams become stronger, then this flow of information can become even more regular. So thank you for bringing that up. It's incredibly important to stay informed about what's happening in our common home, if you like, in Europe, and it helps us better understand how all of our struggles are in common, in fact. So thanks for that. Now we go to Ariana. Ariana?
Hello, everyone. And I have been a DMer since 2018, and I have worked for Mera25 since the beginning of 2019. I'm responsible for a couple of things. Maybe the most interesting here is that I'm trying to organize a little bit the translators, the volunteers who translate from Greek to English, but not only, to many different languages. Now, I wanted to thank you, of course, and then add to this conversation something that I've noticed, which might help our DMers, especially those who are preparing create a party, a political party. My observation, it's only my opinion, is that it was a frenzy activity what we had in order to, to have the results you all know in the Greek parliament. And it was a feat of endurance, actually, which means that maybe we fell a little behind. It's again my way of seeing that. We might have felt a little behind with information and communication, because very active members of DiEM had to get involved to this effort we tried to be in the parliament. But I know that this has been corrected now in a way, because now more active members of DiEM are in communication with us again. We are finding a new form of communication so that now we can spread the word, what is happening here in Greece, in the rest of the world, and of course, our fellow DiEMers. So I believe that it's important that we reorganize a little bit this connection, because it has always been there. MERA and DiEM are one thing, as we all know. However, if there was lack of communication, it was because of all this. We weren't understaffed, but there was more work coming all the time, and we are expanding and expanding, and it's wonderful. So that's the point I wanted to add in this conversation. So since someone before spoke about translating things, the person is, I think it was the former speaker, is very welcome to contact us, because that's what we are trying now, to translate and to spread the word. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arianna. It's true, if there's one thing we never run out of at DiEM, it's work. So anyone who's willing to participate, they're always more than welcome. And please don't give up on us. We're not giving up on you. So, and if we're not answering, it's not because we don't like you. It's because we're a bit overwhelmed at times. So please keep at it and keep badgering us, and eventually we get back, we promise. Thank you for that, Arianna. The floor now goes to Panos. Panos.
Hello, everyone. I guess I am the newest member of DiEM and MERA around. I joined about a month ago. Very happy to be here. I've been contributed to the Greek translation collective of DiEM, and I'm very happy to also work with Arianna to translate the new website and all sorts of exciting stuff like that. Just 3 points briefly. The fact that DiEM25 has an expiry date, and we now realize that because debt mutualization is not happening even after the corona crisis, we're closer to the disintegration which DiEM has predicted. I suppose it means that we have to raise this issue in our public discourse, in the sense DiEM's pitch and MERA's pitch should be, among others, the EU is disintegrating. If you want to save it, well, we need to do something. Regarding the tension between DiEM and MERA, well, my best thought, being a new member, is that perhaps the MERA people who get airtime on TV, and I know it's very hard on them anyway, they bring it up perhaps more, that somewhere, in those 2 minutes that they get to say things, they could say, you know what, by the way, we're a member of the first transnational pan-European movement, DiEM25, just to get the message across. Third point, ultimately, as Depi said, our impact will depend on our physical presence, activist physical presence. It doesn't seem we have the numbers yet. In the meantime, perhaps we can do more online to increase our appeal, not only to the left, but to the centrists, the liberals. And I think MERA and DiEM are doing a good job there. I was very impressed by the forum of DiEM25, huge space, functional, votes, ideas, collaboration, inclusion, organizing. I can't say the same about the Greek forum. Just to say the quality and the richness of the conversation and the people contribute, it's not the same. Maybe if we contributed a little bit more there, have some meaningful conversations, get people involved, show them that there is a public space for dialogue, to get our facts straight, get organized. Maybe that would increase the appeal to all those people, and I know that there must be millions in Greece who are very worried about what's going on, and they don't really know what to do. Thank you to all.
Thank you, Panos. Thank you very much. And thank you for your kind words. It's nice to hear a couple of compliments. When you're coordinating things, you often are on the receiving end of complaints. So it's refreshing to also hear a couple of good things about the forum. It's nice. So thank you for that. I think now we are going to Chryssa, and then we have Yorgos. So Chryssa, you're up first, if that's all right. You can unmute yourself first.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I've joined DiEM here in Greece since its very beginning. We are so far doing very well, in fact. We are a paradigm for this part of the century. We have to work harder and be stronger. Subnational electoral wings and DiEM have to work together and do electoral work, undoubtedly under common goals. We have a certain responsibility for a global solidarity, in fact, responding to these socio-economic impacts of COVID. Because of this disease, the socio-economic effects are attacking European societies at their core. And the potential long-term effects of this global economy crisis are very hard. We are lucky that MERA is part of this pan-European movement, and I have the political feeling that now the good results of this family are giving many benefits to the Greek party and weakness to other Greek parties that they watching us have this pan-European and international relations and discourse. Undoubtedly, pan-European activities are stronger than any national activities and more powerful against this master of capitalism. Maybe now it's time to invent a kind of DiEM and subnational digital parliament, something like that. That's for me, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Chryssa. Very nice to hear from you again. And thank you for those words. It's very true, and also ties back to what we were saying about the uniqueness of our enterprise, of our project. So now, and your idea has been noted, by the way, hasn't fallen through the net. Now the floor goes to Yorgos Athanasiou. Yorgos?
Hello, everybody. I'm Yorgos, and I live lately in Barcelona, but I try to keep myself very active in the Greek reality. So I would like to contribute to this conversation by emphasizing on the need of the movement in Greek reality, in Greek society. Eric said some things about that earlier. I would like to say a bit more because I would like to present my own view. I have many friends that during the years from 2010, 2011 until 2016, they were in Greece and they were students in universities, and they were active in the streets trying to protest against all this austerity, and everything ended in the summer of 2015. And I can see from these people that some of them are abroad trying to find a job there, or others are in Greece trying to survive. That it is very difficult for them to trust a political party because all of the things happened the last years. On the other hand, when we're talking about the problems like environment, like the movements like the art workers that it's very active lately in Greece, or similar movements, they are very passionate about all this. So I am thinking like, why don't we try to strengthen the movement so we will be more able to attract these people within the movement, and keeping aside for a moment the party and let them later know about all the actions of the party. Because I think that for young people, it's not about politics, but it's more about the fight to earn the rights. And I see the same thing also in Barcelona. You know, there are other problems there, like independence, like they're more active in feminism. And I see that young people, especially young people, are more close to movements, and after that they reach the political parties. I don't say that having a political party is a bad thing. On the other hand, I believe that it's very important to have people there speaking the truth, and thank you all about this effort. And also it's very important to see later the media humiliating themselves by trying to hide the truth and emphasize on Egina trips. But I'm just saying that maybe this is a way to attract the young people by enforcing the movement. And thank you all for that.
Thank you, Yorgo. Thank you very much. Can only say that I agree very much. I can see from people's faces and on the Zoom that they are also agreeing. So thank you very much for that point. We were doing so well, everyone. We were having man, woman, and now I have to give the floor to Sotiris. However, having said that, there are worse people in the world to give the floor to. So even though we've broken one of our rules, I'm so sure Sotiris' intervention will make it all worth it. So Sotiris, floor is yours, mate.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I'm Sotiris. I was a member of DiEM. I am a member of DiEM since more or less the very beginning, and now of Mera25. I'd like to respond to your request for feedback from Mera25 to DiEM25. First of all, the idea of an ideal party would be an apolitical idea, so there is no ideal party. Yet, it must be remarked that there are many innovative and very interesting elements in Meras' case. First of all, currently, as far as the Greek parliament is concerned, Mera is effectively the only politically programmatic party, a party that is comprised due to a political program that asks for its materialization. The sole exception perhaps being the Communist Party, but this has an eschatological programmatic orientation, as we would say in Greece. So being a programmatic party that is based on a lucid reading of what's the problem with Europe and with its constituent member state, of course, does not necessarily translate to huge electoral gains from the very beginning, but it certainly helps you to sleep at night and to have a crystal clear conscience. Apart from that, the digital communities that were built by Mera25 in Greece prior to our sorry predicament of the quarantine is unique for Greece. For example, Sisi mentioned Syriza. Syriza, it having been a party of the radical left once upon a time, never had such politicization of its technology and its internal affairs. The fact that we have Zoom communities, if you'd like, all over Greece, every week, each and every week, with Yanis and all the protagonists of the movement in a direct exchange is something very, very new for Greek politics. And it will surely give incentives to people to engage more, even though we must be aware of the fact that after the crisis and Syriza's, as international terminology has it, kolotumba, people are very skeptical about joining movements today, while they were doing that all the time in 2012 or 2013, because things have gone awry. But this can and should change. I said that Mera25 is a programmatic party with which program? Well, DiEM's program, or its particular application to the Greek case. So not only this in itself, but this is a very important element thereof, makes Mera a 100% DiEM25 party. And it also forms a commencement of an evolution that we hope will happen in other countries as well. That is, that the DiEM presence will soon materialize into an actual and audible political force in the form of an electoral wing. It happened successfully in Greece. The problems throughout Europe are, if not identical, then comparable, and it can happen in all other countries where DiEM25 has a presence. I very much hope so, that it will actually happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Sotiris, and thank you for introducing our international audience to the Greek innovation that is Kolotuba. For those of you not familiar with Greek politics, go ahead and Google it. It is the equivalent of a somersault, if you like. The implications to politics are numerous. Sotiris?
U-turn.
Yes, of course. That is, but that's boring. So, Yanis, given that maybe you can also further describe this and what this means in the Greek political context, I think this is a good point at which to return to the CC members, the coordinating collective members among us, to respond to some of the things that everybody's been bringing to the table. Maybe Yanis can make a start, and then we'll see who else.
Well, why did I make a start that will startle everyone to begin with? I miss Margaret Thatcher. I wish she was a lefty and on our side. No, seriously. Do you remember that fantastic speech in Parliament when they were all the idiots, the vermin from the Labour Party, going, yeah, 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 yeah. And she turns around and they would say, you should turn, you should make a U-turn, and you should abandon your policy. They were right, actually, you know, because her policies were terrible. But she got up in Parliament, she said, the lady is not for turning. Okay, which is, you know, the opposite of what Tsipras did. So what he did was the Kolotuba. Now, before I move on, do you know of any other political party in Europe or movement that uses the word eschatological in the process of an internal political meeting? Thank you, Sotiri. You know, I mean, we are, you know, either complete idiots or really, you know, a couple of centuries ahead of our time. And, you know, I mean, the radicality of the man, you can see Sotiris Mitralexis, you know, he has even less hair than me. I would have exactly...
But thank you, not for the last comment, but thank you.
I would have the same amount of hair as you would, or you do, if my better half allowed me to put my, you know, shaver onto 0 instead of 3. Anyway. Look, let's have some fun as well, okay? Because politics is not worth it without fun. Okay. I want to begin with, before I get down to the business of discussing the relationship with the movement and the party, because this is really what concerns me. We are all in agreement about what needs to happen in Europe, what the importance of DiEM and so on. But I want to refer firstly, I really like Mario's, Maria, I really liked your interjection. Your point, and you said something that really, you know, struck a chord in me. That, you know, we do stuff in Parliament, we suffer things in Parliament. The people of Greece suffer things. Mera does stuff, and it doesn't go to Ireland, to Italy, to Spain. This is a major failure on behalf of DiEM25 because we are the best placed movement to do this. The reason why we're not doing it, Maria, you can understand that, is because we are running around, as the Australians say, like headless chooks or chickens. Yeah? Because there are very few of us. You know, there are 24 hours in the day, and we just don't have the time to do it. When we entered Parliament last July, a year ago, almost, well, 10 months ago, whatever, we made a point of having one person in the parliamentary office in the Greek Parliament that would play that role of liaison, who would communicate to the movement across Europe, you know, all the terrible things happening in Parliament, and there are plenty of terrible things happening on a daily basis, right? While at the same time conveying to the Greek Parliament from Britain, Ireland, Portugal, Estonia, and so on, all the advice from DiEMers on what we should be saying in Parliament. So a two-way communication. And so this Mitralexis got this job, but the fact of the matter is that it's important to understand the scarcity of resources. We have 9 members of Parliament, okay? And that includes me, and I'm useless because I'm not allowed by parliamentary convention to be part of the committees in Parliament because I'm the leader, you know? We have one person that has never been around for reasons that have to do with health, with pregnancies and so on. So effectively we have 7 MPs. And they have to do the work. They do more work than 70 Syriza MPs do. And, you know, we are penniless. We are a very poor party. So, whereas New Democracy and you know, the Communist Party of Greece has 1,000 employees. We have 11. 1,000 the Communist Party, which is not that larger than us. You know, we have 3.5%, they are 5.5%, right? They have 1,000. You can imagine what New Democracy has, what Syriza has, what former PASOK have. They've got infinite resources compared to us, and we have to do everything, and we do pretty well. But poor Sotiri, who was given the task of being the liaison between DiEM and Mera, just can't cope. He already works 35 hours a day, so he uses his connection with the divine, because, you know, he's a theologian and a believer, unlike me, in order to create more hours in the day, to be able to cope with all this. So, Mari, I have an idea for you. Would you like to play that role on a volunteer basis until we have the resources to do it? Ah, he says no.
No. I just tried to open up my mute microphone to accept this proposal with great honor. I believe that getting in contact with Sotiris will allow me to be better informed about what's going on.
And you know what, Maria, you can actually organize spontaneously with other people as well. Because
of course, there is a huge network of people exchanging information at the moment we speak right now.
Translate stuff, you know, but translation can be soul destroying, especially if you're translating bullshit. But, you know, but this is not soul destroying. This is good stuff, because what we need is somebody or a team of DiEMers. This is a fantastic opportunity for DiEMers in Greece, for DiEM Greece, to have a real function outside Mera, communicating to the Mera MPs, you know, telling them, you know what, in Portugal, they had that experience, speak about it, you idiots, while at the same time telling the Portuguese what is happening in the Greek parliament. That is a brilliant field, a realm of activity for somebody like you. So organize spontaneously, you know, you don't need to have the authority of anyone, just do it. Organize a team of people that will get together with our people in parliament, like Sotiris, Alexis, and so on, and Fotini, and play the role of go-between the pan-European DiEM and the Greek Mera in parliament. That would be, you know, so important for all DiEMers in Greece.
It's just another hour in Sotiris' program to make it 36 possible to share with me. I will leave Sotiris for an hour.
So this can organize others as well.
Okay, as I said before, I'm feeling truly honored that this came up at the moment, and I will be glad to work with Sotiris on relating international correspondence, in translating into usable data in the hands of the Greek MPs, and vice versa, of course.
It's not just Sotiris, we can include other people as well, because Sotiris also works.
I'm just referring to the person just being introduced at the moment.
Okay, organize this team with Sotiri, and then we can create a connection between your team, the one you will put together, and our communications team, our agitprop team, you know, the propaganda team.
That is even better. That will work even better for me. Not to be concentrated on a person, but having a team there to deal with everything, because there will be a huge amount of information coming delegated through particular channels related to the Greek reality. And also,
the important thing, Pano, is, you know, Maria, is not Pano. Maria, the important thing is not to do everything. You know,
of course.
You know, less is more. Just, you know, concentrate on that which the Lithuanian and the Portuguese really want to listen to. When it comes to, you know, there are many things coming out of Greek Parliament which are not that important. You know, you need to use your judgment. Now, Pano, you said that those of us who are in the media should mention DiEM. Tragically, I'm the main person that the media want. Even though they hate me, they loathe me with a deep passion, and I welcome their hatred with extreme love, because it means that, you know, I'm doing something right if the media hate me, because the media are all bankrupt and in the pockets of the Troika. Nevertheless, they want me. Why? Because, you know, their numbers go up. They make money out of having me on, you know, on their shows. But I always mention DiEM. Not always, but almost always do I mention DiEM. But this is not enough. somebody asked, what is the relationship between DiEM and MERA? What is MERA doing for DiEM and DiEM doing for MERA? Look, let's not forget that anyone who joins MERA automatically joins DiEM, whereas it's not the other way around. If you join DiEM, you don't automatically join MERA. You're going to be somebody who hates political parties and doesn't want to be a member of it. This is a complete innovation. I mean, that has never happened in the world before. A political movement creates a party and says, if members of the political movement who do not want to be members of the party, fine, you can vote for somebody else, even if you want. That's extreme liberalism. Liberalism gone berserk, really. But we're very proud of it. We like being more liberal than those who claim to be liberal. Secondly, remember when we put DiEM together, when we put together our MERA, not when we put DiEM together, when we put MERA together in, when was it, Fotini? 26th of March, 2018, correct? Okay. The manifesto of MERA 25 was voted for by an all-member vote across Europe. When we put together our electoral program for last year's election, we had actual referenda for different parts of the electoral program that were voted for by all member votes by the Portuguese, the Germans, and so on. I mean, that has never happened before in the world, this kind of transnational politics. So, this is our strength, and we will continue this. Now, if it wasn't for COVID-19, we would be having on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, the Congress of MERA here in Athens. Okay, now, of course, COVID-19 prevented that, but we will have it at some point when we can. I think that the best time for us having it is next year, next May 2021, independently of the electoral process and so on in Greece. Now, what is important is to insert DiEM, not only in the final vote, but also in the proceedings. So I'm going to work personally very hard to convince all MERA people, especially, my lords and masters and mistresses like Sisi, who are organizing the Congress, that, for instance, a certain section of the Central Committee, whatever we call it, that gets elected, is selected by DiEMers, goes to DiEM people, directly to DiEM people, not MERA people, but DiEM people, maybe people from outside of Greece, right? We must preserve certain spots even in the Politburo, the political secretariat. I'm an old Marxist, I think, of terms of Politburo. Shoot me for that. For DiEM, we must institute constant channels connecting DiEM with MERA 25, and we're going to do that. And in the end, every decision that the Congress makes will have to go through an AMV, an all-member vote. Every decision, including who gets elected, what are the policies what is our manifesto, and so on and so forth. So we have an enormous amount of opportunity here to bring, to continue the transnationality that makes MERA not another political party.
Thank you very much for that, Yanis. Now we go to another CC member, our very own anti-Thatcher from Serbia, Ivana Nenadovic. The floor is yours.
Hi, good evening.
I'm sorry, she's not an anti-Thatcher. She's our Thatcher.
Kalispera. And I'm Ivana. I'm from Veligradi, from Serbia. And I have to tell you that this is a great joy tonight to be here with you and to hear all of these very energetic ideas and willingness to collaborate and to make ties and build bridges. It's really a joy. I would just like to point out the tight ties that Serbia has with Greece, and it's an emotional relationship. And I would like to build on this relationship. And we have so many similarities. For example, it was very interesting for me how until the latest crisis before the outbreak of COVID, with migrants, people in Serbia and people in Greece were welcoming migrants. It was not at all like it was in some other countries. but when it started to rise in Greece, like the anti-migrants atmosphere, it started to rise in Serbia. And we must be aware of these influences that we have on each other, and to make the best of these ties and bridges that we have. But I won't take too much time, because I would love to hear more of your ideas and to have some more of this positive energy from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivana. Okay, so let's take the discussion back to our people on the ground. I see here we have waiting patiently for a while for the floor, actually. Sorry about that. Fivos. Fivo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining this beautiful discussion. It's very inspiring. I'll focus a bit on an area of mine. I'm an early member of DiEM Greece, based in Athens. And I would call myself a cognitive scientist. So in order to survive the media crisis that modern democracies have to deal with, and all of us, I'll just focus on 3 principles. So firstly, I think democracies need informed citizens. So how do we stay informed? In order to make better decisions and to make better votes, we want to make a lot of votes. So we want to have better outcomes in those votes. One part of that is to actually together create the proposals instead of having a list handed down to us by someone who knows better, so to speak. Secondly, the second principle, I think, to better democracies is self-education. So this doesn't mean just going to university, collecting another parchment and putting it on the wall. I believe education is a personal business, and you have to be actually involved, and to really want it, go out there and seek information. We can start with our own personal curiosity, but we can expand from that, and we can connect it back to what we're trying to do here in DiEM. So I think also DiEM25 in itself is an experiment that contributes to the growth of its members, myself included. I find that taking part in DiEM since the beginning has grown me quite a bit, and I'm very thankful for that and for all your input and making me a better citizen and making each other a better citizen. And I'll leave you with the last principle, is that we have to make an effort to attain clearer thinking. So looking at things a bit more critically, things that come from the news, things that come from authors, we have to better evaluate what is in the interest of any author that is saying something to us. So the last principle, in the words of Richard Feynman, who I find was a great physicist, is the principle that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. That's all for me. Thank you, and good night from Athens.
Cheers, Fivos. Thank you very much for that. I actually have nobody here waiting for the floor, which is a first. No, that didn't last very long, did it? Spiros, Spiro, the floor is yours, mate.
Γεια σας όλους, εγώ θα μιλήσω στα ελληνικά. Σίγουρα είναι καινοτόμο το να ανήκει κάποιος στον DiEM, μάλλον να συστηθώ πρώτα. Είμαι λογιστής οικονομολόγος, είμαι μέλος του DiEM από το 2016. Είμαι συντονιστής της αυθόρμητης ομάδας οικονομολόγων Αθήνας, η οποία βρίσκεται σε αναστολή δράσης από το 2018. Αυτά τα λίγα από μένα. Και είναι καινοτόμο το να ανήκεις στο DiEM25, αλλά να μην ψηφίζεις στο ΜΕΡΑ25. Σίγουρα είναι φιλελεύθερα αρκετά, αλλά τελικά το ζητούμενο είναι να υπάρχει αυτή η αμφίδρομη σχέση ανάμεσα στο εκλογικό βραχίωνα και στο κίνημα. Κάτι που μέχρι τώρα δεν έχει επιτευχθεί παρά μόνο στη χώρα, και μάλιστα με λάθος τακτική χάθηκε και η εκπροσώπηση στο Ευρωκοινοβούλιο για 50 ψήφους. Διορθώστε με αν κάνω λάθος.
47.
Ναι. Και θα πούμε, μάλλον να μην μείνουμε πού έγινε το λάθος αυτό, αλλά να μείνουμε το στίχημα για την ελληνική κοινωνία αυτή τη στιγμή είναι το πώς θα κατορθώσει ένα τόσο δημιουργικό κόμμα να φέρει αποτέλεσμα. Και μέσα από κοινοβουλευτικές διαδικασίες γνωρίζετε ότι δεν δουλεύει, μέχρι τώρα τουλάχιστον. Άρα αυτό το οποίο θα πρέπει να βρούμε είναι μια μια νέα πολιτική με τακτικές, με επικοινωνιακές τακτικές, οι οποίες θα φέρουν αποτέλεσμα σε δύο κυρίαρχους τομείς, οι οποίοι αφορούν όλη την Ευρώπη πλέον. Το πρώτο είναι η λειτουργία του χρηματοπιστωτικού συστήματος, το δεύτερο είναι η διαφθορά και το τρίτο για την Ελλάδα είναι η λειτουργία του φορολογικού συστήματος. Αυτά τα τρία παράγουν μεγάλη δυστυχία στις κοινωνίες και με κυρίαρχο το πρώτο. Άρα, αυτό που ζητάμε τώρα από το ΜΕΡΑ25, καλός ή κακός, αυτό έχουμε στα χέρια μας, δεν έχουμε κάτι άλλο. Δεν είναι η επικοινωνία των εθνικών συμβουλίων και να εκπροσωπούνται μέσα στη Βουλή, αλλά είναι να μπορέσει να φέρει αποτέλεσμα με μια ακραία δεξιά κυβέρνηση το ΜΕΡΑ25. Ναι, τότε όλη η Ευρώπη θα θέλει να δουλέψει για αυτό το πράγμα. Ευχαριστώ που με ακούσατε.
Εμείς ευχαριστούμε, Σπύρο. So a very brief translation of what Spiros has told us. He's a member since 2016. He's a coordinator of a local thematic group in Athens of economists. He really appreciates the innovation and the uniqueness of being able to be in a movement and still be allowed to vote for a different party. He didn't specify that that's exactly what he's done, but the concept and the fact that that option is there is a beautiful thing in and of itself. He specifically emphasized the need to have new sort of innovative processes through which to allow greater participation in parliamentary politics in general, which is de facto and inherently, if you like, a kind of political system which doesn't allow for a great amount of citizen participation in politics and democracy. And he then went on to emphasize a number of important areas for us to develop sort of policies. The financial system around Europe, the taxation system specifically for Greece. And he said that especially if we can manage to be a successful opposition party in Greece against the kind of hard right, if not far right, party that is currently governing the country here, then we will definitely become a beacon for this kind of oppositional politics and a progressive political alternative for the rest of Europe that other Europeans can look to. So he specifically emphasized the importance of the Greek case for acting like this kind of an example of how things could be done differently, and the importance of MERA in that effort. That's it, Spiro. I'm sorry if I didn't, I'm sorry, it's too many languages. I'm sorry if I didn't do justice to what you've said. I think that's more or less the summary of it. Now, I've been hoping to have perhaps a woman take the floor. We don't have that right now, so we'll have to move on with Orestis. But please, if there's a woman that would like the floor, now would be the time to request it. So, Oresti, floor is yours.
Discussion. I have some hints, some from two or three different topics. The first topic is the effectiveness of the electoral strategy. Even though the results and the efforts of the people who really given a lot of time and resources and ingenuity in this project were given the very strict timetables were very good, were quite, however, the total results were that DiEM as a power in itself didn't manage to make some change. If we look at the Euro election results, in the only cases that we managed to, our coalition managed to get to be near to elect a member of the European Parliament was at the instances where we had an alliance with an already established party in this country. Barring, of course, Greece, where Yanis Varoufakis was a very popular figure, and essentially everybody who was of the non-aligned population who you speak to say, Mera-25 is Yanis Varoufakis party. So we won riding on the popularity of Yanis Varoufakis without this meaning that our position were not important or our or the efforts of the other members were not important. But the main force for getting our message heard in the widely in the among the population, among the voters, was the popularity of Yanis Varoufakis, the interviews in the media, and the basis that has been built, that he has built in the previous years, either as an academic during the crisis or as a serious economic, serious finance minister. The second part of the question is that the independent electoral strategy makes other parties of the left, by definition, more, if I can say, suspect, because I think that even if there are good intentions in the large members of the left, politics remains a power game. So by appearing as an electoral antagonist, I think that some forces of the left would be more reserved in working with us. And now the third point is on the working of Mera-25. Mera-25.
If I could ask you to summarize your last point, because we have to.
Yes, just one. This would be two phrases. Thank you. It is that DiEM has a very innovative way of working, which differs from the traditional working of the political parties. While Mera, on a large extent, keeps the same structure and working procedures of the traditional parties. That's were just three points of discussion, with a huge respect to everybody who has worked and not be taken as a critique. Thank you very much.
It was a critique, and it's a useful critique, but and we'll get to it. This is exactly why we have these calls. But first, I'd like to give the floor to Yanis, because I think he might have to leave a bit early.
Well, before I leave, explain the reasons why I'm leaving early. I don't want to leave early. Oresti, just a very brief comment. You know, when you are creating a party and you're in parliament and you have to have daily briefings and so on and so on, it's really very easy to fall into the rut of being a normal party. But what stops us from being a normal party, and we are going to solidify that in our Congress, is the fact that everything has to go through DiEM. Every decision we make will have to go through the, all member votes of DiEM in terms of our program, in terms of our policies, and also in terms of who is elected to even stand for parliament. So we are going to do that. You will see that. I hope we honor that pledge. The reason I need to leave is because in 3 minutes, I expect a telephone call from the BBC World Service to ask me a question about, you heard of the European Commission today. The European Commission, my God, you know, they are becoming DiEMers, not really. And they warned that this crisis is going to enhance and turbocharge the forces of disintegration of the Eurozone and perhaps the European Union. So the BBC want to talk to me about, this is going to be recorded now. You can hear it at 7:05 tomorrow, GMT, or 8:05 Central European time, or 9:05 Greek time. I've got to go. The BBC is calling.
Cheers, Yanis. Thanks for being here. Love the British punctuality and that timing, you know, 05 is when you'll hear it, not a minute later or sooner. So thank you for that. And to get back to Orestis also from my side, and now speaking, you know, as an individual member, it's really important, this idea of collaboration, right? We didn't create something in order to divide a common struggle, you know, and if we want to call that struggle the left, then the left. However, we are part of that struggle. We are also the left. So if the left doesn't want to work with us, who is the left? You know, and there is this idea in Europe of a bloc called the left or the Greens, and at the very heart, and I say this as somebody who's based in Brussels, right? At the very heart of the issue behind the unworkable structure that is the European Union is the fact that there isn't such a political bloc. There is no such thing as the left, the Greens, with one coordinated, united position on different things. There are national groups of all these different pan-European entities, if you like, but they all have different agendas, they have different interests, and then they get together at the European level and kind of try to find a way to collaborate and coordinate with each other. In DiEM, recognizing the problem with this and knowing that solutions need to come from the European level down, we've done that the other way around. We first come together as Europeans, we create one common agenda, one common thing, ambition, if you like, for what Europe needs, and then we apply that to the national level. We do it the other way around. So it's not a federation, it's a united pan-European enterprise. And this is what we have to offer, is what we have to offer politics, it's what we have to offer Europeans, it's what we have to offer elections around Europe. And some people might like that, some people might not, but that is the particularity of the project, you know, that we're all a part of. In undertaking this project, we're not trying to alienate ourselves from the left, from the Greens, from anybody. But we come together at the European level and we say, this is what we stand for. This is what we think Europe needs. And then people that agree with us can come together, not on the basis of what works, who will get the most power in what country if we come together, but we're not going to play that Machiavellian game. What we do is that we get together with people that agree with a program, and we're also willing to discuss that program and adapt it on the basis of that discussion. But always at the heart of it is that common European level understanding of what we're trying to do. If we don't have that, then it's very difficult to maintain DiEM and have this particular thing that is DiEM, right? So what we're trying to say is that parties that we work with, parties that we're trying to collaborate with, or other organizations, other movements, they need to be educated into what it is that we are, because it's something new and they don't know how to deal with something new. They know how to do business as usual, politics as usual. And we need to collaborate with them in such a way that doesn't sacrifice the uniqueness of what we're trying to do, right? That is the whole difficulty of it. And we need to keep that in mind when we have these discussions about, you know, the left doesn't want to work with us. It's also a question of why they don't want to work with us. And because we have been very willing to work with others. So just to leave that there, and we can get back to that topic as you all like. I would like to go to a woman. We have Judith with us. That's nice. Judith, you have the floor, and then we go back to Marius. Judith.
Yeah. Can you hear me? I hope. So I wanted to say Also, because you mentioned the example of Germany being the closest we've come to elect someone, I think it was not because of this alliance, but almost despite, because we spent like 1 year negotiating with this party that has like 2,000 members. And in that year, I'm sure we could have gotten more than 2,000 members if we had invested our energy that way. So it was a particular case. But more generally, what I wanted to say is that keep up the good work, because Greece has been a huge inspiration for me personally as a German. I learned Greek mainly in 2015 because of the Greek crisis, because of wanting to understand more of what's going on and to be closer. And I think that it's so important to bring our solutions not just to Greece, but to all of Europe, because the European Union cannot be changed by Greece alone or even by Germany alone. Maybe it has the greatest chances, Germany alone, but even then, I don't think it works unless we're all in it and trying to push from all sides at once. And it is very important to keep up this European spirit and not to start blaming each other or saying the Greeks just did that and the Germans just did that and the Italians and who knows who else. It's very important to first think of us as Europeans with a particular political program which will create a better Europe for all of us, for all people in Europe.
Thank you very much for that, Judith. Very nice to have you here with us, actually. And now we have about 15 minutes left for our discussion today. So I'd like to ask those of you that take the floor from now on to start also referencing potential ideas for the future, things that we could be doing from now on in Greece, how to reinvigorate the movement in Greece, how to have the movement collaborate better with the party, with Mera25, with other countries that are also active around Europe and so on and so forth. So please try and integrate that in your interventions, ideas for what we can be doing from now on. And we'll take that as a sort of foundation for our next calls coming up between us, coordinating. So who do we have next? We've got Marius. Mario, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the floor. I will tell you an idea that came from what Spiros told us before about the system of the taxation system. It so happened that I noticed that, for example, with the latest legislation referring to taxes here in Greece that passed almost 2 years ago, I'm not sure, Sisi probably has more information on this subject, but yet again, the legislation provoked citizens with the fact that there is an interest that should be paid if the citizen is not available on paying the amount that he owns the tax services in Greece. Okay, it's a totally different thing to pay an advancement because you delayed, which is also instituted through the legislation, and a totally different thing that they voted for an extra interest on those money with no way, totally free, which means that your money, the money that you own the state, can be additionally interested with an interest that you doesn't have any high level. So I'm suggesting if everybody has an accountant, go ask your accountant what the legislation, the tax legislation is in your country, and probably you will end up with the same result, that in every single European country, there is an extra interest put on the money that you own to the tax services, and you are to pay it like the state was a bank. So I'm just pointing the finger to something that is well known, but nobody wants to discuss about it because there was a government voting for it like a couple of years ago during the memorandum, and probably all the countries in Europe that have touched money from that
Thank you, Maria. Spiro, θα ήθελες μήπως να απαντήσεις? Ναι. Okay, so we'll give the floor to Spiros to respond to what Mario said, and then we'll carry on with the discussion and start wrapping up. Spiro.
Για να καταλάβετε λίγο την έκταση αυτού που ανέφερε ο Μάριος, σκεφτείτε ότι υπάρχει νομοθεσία στη ρύθμιση των 12 δόσεων, στην πάγια ρύθμιση, που το επιτόκιο είναι 180%. Αν θέλετε το πιστεύετε αυτό που σας λέω. Είναι 15% το μήνα. Υπάρχει μια ολόκληρη στρατηγική των αποτυχημένων ρυθμίσεων. Δηλαδή, όλες οι ρυθμίσεις έχουν σαν η ρύθμιση των 100 δόσεων, δηλαδή οι ρυθμίσεις που γίνονται σε βάθος ή των 120 δόσεων, που γίνονται σε βάθος δεκαετίας, έχουν σαν όρο ότι αν δεν κατορθώσεις να πληρώσεις τις τρέχουσες οφειλές σου και αν για κάποιο λόγο δεν μπορείς να πληρώσεις και 2 από τις δόσεις που έχεις, ξαναγυρνάς στο σημείο που βρισκόσουν και ας γίνει αυτό μετά από 7 χρόνια. Πρέπει να ξέρετε, δεν μπορεί να κάνει κανένας βραχυπρόθεσμο, κανένα σχεδιασμό, ο οποίος να ξεπερνάει την 3ετία ή 5ετία. Λογικά, οικονομικό σχεδιασμό. Γιατί λογικά κάτι θα συμβεί, ένα έκτακτο γεγονός, ένα φυσικό ακραίο συμβάν, μια οικονομική κρίση. Είναι κυριολεκτικά μια στρατηγική που εφαρμόζουν συνήθως οι δεξιές κυβερνήσεις ή μάλλον οι τελευταίες κυβερνήσεις. Μην το πω τώρα δεξιές, γιατί έχει χαθεί λίγο ο συσχετισμός μετά από την πολιτική εργολαβία του ΣΥΡΙΖΑ με τα μνημόνια. Υπάρχει ένας στρατηγικός σχεδιασμός έτσι ώστε ποτέ μα ποτέ να μην μπορέσει κάποιος να απεγκλωβιστεί από τις οφειλές του. Προσέξτε, το ίδιο ισχύει και για τις ρυθμίσεις στα χρηματοπιστωτικά ιδρύματα. Είναι κυριολεκτικά η λογική, συγγνώμη που θα το πω έτσι τώρα, είναι του υπόκοσμου. Και θα σταματήσω γιατί νομίζω έχω περάσει τα 2 λεπτά.
Δεν πειράζει, θα με βοηθήσει όμως και για να μεταφράσω. Thank you, Spiros. So essentially, just to summarize what Spiros says, because I'm keenly aware of the time, he was basically explaining, and you can get in touch with us if you'd like the details, he was explaining how this type of policy that Marius was describing is essentially not accidental, it's not a badly made policy, it's not a mistake, it is designed in order to enslave both individuals and governments in debt. And that is a policy that traditionally has been followed by right-wing governments to serve certain political interests. But in the time of neoliberalism, that has essentially been a a policy followed by people in power. It's just the way things have been done. So, you know, the distinction between right and left is sort of pales in the last few decades in terms of this particular policy. So that's the summary of what Spiros described. Now, let's move on with the last few members. Let's continue this along this path of ideas, and let's also try and start summarizing the discussion through our interventions. First, we have Elisabeth, then Mikhail, and then Fotini, and Fotini can close the discussion for today. So, Elisabeth.
I want to endorse, for starters, both Mario's and Spiros's findings. I think we know all that, and I want to speak as a citizen who is a member of both DiEM and MERA25 from day one. I think we have an issue to speak about not what has been happening and is not changing, because we don't have time for this. Time is, and especially free time, is a commodity. And I especially as a 59-year-old, am running out of time, but I'm not giving up. And therefore, I am very concerned about effectiveness. And you, Eric, said we should propose something when I think we have hard work in the manifestos of DiEM25 and MERA25 already served for us to work upon. So patience, which is a matter of time, in fact, tolerance is also an issue here that regards patience, an inverse proportion to time. And I think people and citizens in particular are running out of patience because they have no time to understand all these various views that are never, they never look to come to a conclusion. So my proposal is to stay active in what we do in our everyday life, become very political. Political doesn't mean, I mean, I'm a liberal and I feel very offended when I get put in the same sack like a neoliberal. And I'm proud to be a liberal because I can listen to all the left-wing ideology without getting irritated, because I believe I'm open-minded and I can be here. And I think we liberals have a lot to offer. And one of the things we have to offer, and I'm going to close with that, is we have learned, one, to believe in what we see and not in what we are told, and two, to work with what we have. So we have 7 accents, and one of the accents has a fantastic word in it, transition. Transition is costly, and every citizen as a person has to take this transition cost on his own back, whether it is being here and spending free time or whether it is professional time. So I think it is personal responsibility that is eminent and imminent to happen at once. And from that basis, we can work on our very difficult 7 accents, which are difficult because they are different and they are contemporary. And this is what we need to pass on. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisabeth. Lovely to see you again. For those of you that might be interested on this particular topic of time, so a small aside, there is a very interesting book by a guy called Martin Hägglund, a Swedish philosopher in Yale, who talks about this concept of time as the only true value that we have, because it's the only thing that we can control through our lives, and it's what makes us free. Our ability to use our own time is what makes us free, and of course then connects that to capitalism and the fact that it is exactly the thing that it takes away from us. The richer you are, the more time you have, the poorer you are, the less. And it is really your sort of connection to time that makes you poor or rich, and then monetary value is given to that. It's a very interesting topic. Sorry for the small aside, but it's Martin Hägglund, for those of you that are interested in that topic. Thank you, Elisabeth. Let's go to Mikhail. Then we have Fotini, and then also Sisi has promised me she'll be very brief with a 1-minute intervention at the end. So Mikhail, Fotini, Sisi, and that's it for tonight.
Thank you, Eric. I will be very brief on that. Allow me to be the devil's advocate for this, and also say what Ariana proposed as well in the chat room, that we really need to translate today's meeting, okay? We have a lot of people participating in MERA25 or DiEM25 who are quite shy to participate actively, because I don't know what their fear is, but we really need to spread the word to everybody, not only in Europe, but in Greece, that we are active, we are here, that we are a true pan-European party. We also need to point out that we stick together. We don't have dispute or any discord inside the DiEM25 or MERA25, and that if we unite against this right or far-right threat that has risen in our country and in Europe, this will be a very nice message and will act like a beacon of light. Just like every time in European history, Greece and those who were very close to the Greek ideologies helped to liberate Greece or any other country. And we have seen that even in the Middle Ages or in the First World War or the Second World War. This is what we need to do. It's a great necessity so that we translate with the help of all the other translators, like we do in all the Greek videos so far. And I hope Ariana will not hate me on this, because it is a very tough work translating. And that's all I have to say. And thank you for this great meeting, Eric, and all the other comrades.
Thank you for being such a joy to moderate and to be with Mikhail. It's really a pleasure. These calls are really a pleasure. Fotini next, and then Sisi.
Okay. First of all, Eric, thanks for moderating. Thank you, comrades, for this extremely interesting conversation and discussion. I'm really looking forward to all the next ones. Just to wrap it up with 3 concrete proposals. First of all, I would suggest our NC, since there is still an NC of Greece, to be reactivated and try to reach out to our existing DSCs in Greece and try to motivate them and reactivate them. Number 2, issue a call, maybe by Yanis, by the CC, we can discuss about that, inviting people to join DiEM25. Many people in Greece might think that since MERA is in parliament, DiEM has ceased to exist. And number 3, maybe we should start thinking on the first DiEM Greece MERA25 event, issue for a format subject that will take place whenever the measures for the epidemic allows us. Thank you.
Thank you, Fotini. All of that has been noted. It's really important to have these kinds of goals, especially in times like Corona, when you're stuck at home, so that we know what we're fighting towards. Give ourselves goals, and it's not the easiest thing to do when you're stuck indoors. But we shouldn't allow that to make us being also stuck politically. So thank you for that. And finally, we have Sisi. Sisi, floor is yours.
Yes, just a point. Because we always focus on economy, and this is right, because for the past 25 years, neoliberalism, destroyed everything that we've been sort of familiar with, absolutely destroyed our lives, and I have mentioned that in my first talk. Economy is important, but please don't forget ideology, ideological propaganda by governments, and the importance and the power of ideas. Therefore, my message, personal message, but I think it's a common message, is to take advantage of the lessons that were taught to us by the epidemic and restore important ideological principles that have been lost all these decades, like the issue of common good and communality. Thank you.
Thank you, Cici. Thank you for that point, that it's not always about going bravely into the future, but also rediscovering and salvaging the things that have been crushed from our past that were good and have been destroyed for a reason, for a very political, classist reason. I think that's a very good point on which to end. That's a topic that we haven't touched upon, and it's good that you've brought it to the front. Perhaps one for us to discover in future calls for Beyond the Balcony. Thank you all for being here. Everyone from the National Collective, from the electoral wing, Meta25, from our local groups, members. Thanks to all of you who've watched us from home. I hope this has been interesting for you. Please join us on Saturday, 11 a.m. CET for the next Beyond the Balcony call with Turkey, our neighbor in Greece. We don't have a national collective there. We don't have an electoral wing, but we have a lot of very, very active members. We had a first very successful series of events, if you like, in December, a good foundation on which we've been building. So please join us on Saturday for that discussion. Let's see how we can connect it to things that have already been mentioned in this call. It's the same neighborhood after all. And otherwise, have a lovely evening. Keep safe, take care. Thanks for being with us, and carpe diem.
Good night.